We actually got a counter hit? We are currently fundraising money for hurricane victims the most brutal and annoying way possible by playing Mega Man Battle Network 4 as many times as it takes. The more money that we raise, the more I have to play the game. Well, our very first fundraiser stream ended. We ended up raising $850, which is incredible. That also means that I have to beat the game at least 3 times based on these donation tiers. We're also really close to $1,000, which is going to be the next one there. This has been a blast. I have been really enjoying the zany, ridiculous things that donors have been throwing my way. One of the funniest things that happened right away was Guardian Shaw, who donated $100 at the start of the stream to essentially remove every single chip in my starting folder and then turn Buster Max off 4 times. So essentially, I could not use any battle chips in those early virus battles. Every single chip that I picked up, I wanted to add in my folder right away because the other ones are dead completely. So I've ended up with just a complete alphabet soup that's just awful in the funniest ways possible. I will say too, Battle Network 4 has been a total blast. Now, patch cards have been hysterical as well. Some of them are extremely brutal, like the flower bug, which basically turns off your Buster completely. We've actually banned that now because it essentially makes Buster Max turning on and off kind of worthless. There's also really silly ones like throwing mini bombs with your regular B button or your charge attack, adding extra mega chips or giga chips to your folder at the cost of HP bugs. Essentially, I had 160 HP, and every time I was in the custom menu, my HP would drain tremendously. This was before the Navi Customizer was a thing. I didn't even have undershirt. So I'm basically just like grabbing a chip right away, hitting the button, and hoping that my mini bombs are going to go down. It's been a really fun playthrough, and I'm really curious if you have any thoughts. You can see we've got a fun list right here, including the patch cards. I'm trying to figure out how I should go about the Navi Customizer, maybe like 15 or 20 bucks to just completely rework it. I feel like adding or removing one program is not very exciting. Also, as far as patch cards go, we were thinking about limiting them in some way, but I think the best solution that I have is just turning the patch cards on for that stream, and then when the stream ends, we're going to reset it back to normal. That's how it's been for, you know, Buster Max, which is going to be on by default. I want to be saving our time as much as possible, and the same is also true of story mode, which, by the way, is just cutscenes on or off. We're turning cutscenes off, okay? We've seen BN4 a million times. Maybe the scenarios, I might watch the cutscenes because maybe we'll do a silly tier list at the end of all of this. But yeah, for the most part, we're basically trying to save time because I gotta beat the game at least 3 times, and we're very close to 4, and I'm extremely nervous about somebody dropping a grand and just like deleting all of our save progress. I both really want it to happen, and I'm also like terrified of it happening. On the note of the scenarios and maybe making a tier list, we did end up with, I believe, 5 so far. The ghost scenario, not bad. Actually surprisingly heartfelt. In fact, my jaw kind of dropped just seeing Mega Man reference being Hub in Battle Network 4. I think that's possibly the only time Hub is hinted at or mentioned in this entire stupid, silly game with very little story to it. Again, surprisingly heartfelt. I thought the story was kind of nice. You get little prizes throughout the game, and it's really not that long, so I would consider that pretty good. Aquaman's also really fun. I would say one of the funnier moments happens with sad music playing as Shuko's telling you her life story about stubbing her finger on a dresser. I mean, it's absolutely hysterical. She's like tripping and falling after you beat her at the end. It's very fun. And it's not super long or tedious either. I was fortunate in that viewers were able to guide me to exact Aquaman locations, but otherwise, you know, it really isn't too bad, I don't think. I never had to drown or take damage through that either. Then there's Sparkman's, which is pretty awful normally, but you can brute force your way through the password, so it only took us about 5 minutes. I will say Sparkman as an opponent, though, pretty tough. He's got 600 HP, which is like an obscene amount of HP in the early game, especially considering this is Battle Network 4, and you don't just get mega chips easily. This is the only game you don't get roll as a baseline. I had to go way out of my way to beat Aquaman, which was already a pretty hard fight. And for what? Like a mega chip that might deal 140 damage? Man, dodges a lot, moves a lot. You know, my mini bombs were not really that effective, so he was pretty tough. But yeah, overall, at least it's a short scenario, as long as you know how to brute force the passwords, and in this day and age of the internet, that's not too bad. As far as the Hawk tournament goes, we did have the Crusher Riki scenario, which is pretty funny. You got this Mafia guy with an ugly face, and I guess throughout his entire life, because he's been so ugly, goons and henchmen come up to him and say, hey, be our boss. He basically gets taken in by this old lady Mafia head who's kind of a badass, honestly. There's this whole Mafia subplot where Ricky wants to be a baker to escape the Mafia, the old lady wants him to stay, and then there's this infighting going down between the Mafia who want to eliminate Ricky from being a threat. If they kill his net Navi, he's going to be a wimp, and then take out the old lady. There's a very, very funny way it ends. Not that long either. You know, as long as you're saving throughout the game, you're not going to worry too much about getting caught by these stealth missions. That's essentially a stealth mission. So not too bad. And as you save the game, you're turning off the virus rate. That's a fun BN4 quirk, by the way. You can reduce the virus encounter rates as long as you enter the chip folder menu or if you save the game. So that's another good thing. It's pretty short overall. And yeah, honestly, pretty funny, pretty enjoyable. Then it was Metal Man. Oh, Lord. Metal Man's awful. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, Tomoko's... First of all, how stupid is it that Lan doesn't know Tomoko when you have to fight her in the N1 Grand Prix and BN3? He recognizes Sal, but he doesn't recognize Tomoko? That's ridiculous. Then, you have to go through 2 fetch quests in Park Area to bring this master jerky and, like, booze. Then, you have to do a cyber minigame with punching rocks. It is not easy. You've got a very small window to get the hit on the rock to kill it, and it doesn't have HP. If you miss by a little bit multiple times, you're essentially doing no damage the same way as, you know, you would if you were way off, right? You have to hit that center spot. Then you do this entire Metal Man, you know, 1v1 fight, which is not bad at first. I was really popping off the first and second rounds. Then you get a third round to do. It's like, why? Like, why are we doing 3 rounds of this ridiculous scenario? Like, just doing the fetch quest would be annoying enough. Or how about just Metal Man punching rocks? Why is there a fetch quest at all? Awful, 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 F tier, horrendous, whatever. I'm very curious what our final mission is going to be in the Hot Quest. That's where our next stream is going to be. Can't wait to join you guys in. We're going to be streaming this all the time on YouTube, which you can find here, of course, and then also on Twitch as well. As always, I'm Scoutmaster Demi. Feel free to join our Discord for fun updates. Join our Ko-Fi page as well, where you've got all the listed rules and things to help donate and participate. And then again, let me know what you think of our current setup. What are some fun additional donations that we could add as powers that you think might be a fun thing? Catch you later, Scouts.